right on the walls. The only way we're gonna get this happen is if they realize that you guys, the fans, want it. Okay, so we are all members of the League of Steam.
Yay!
And let's everybody a mic check. Everybody's mic's working.
Check. Yeah, turn yours on now. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yes. Much better.
So we'll start. Oh. Electricity, hun. We do have. I think we.
I'm Nick Bell.
Oh, wow. Who's better off?
Yeah,
I can hear you guys with it off, so you're fine.
Alright. For the last panel, I just projected.
Mine is already.
Hi, I'm Nick Bauman. I play Kraken Spots for the League Steam. I'm the creative director for League Steam, and I build most of the props and crazy gadgets and stuff to do. And to my left is.
Hi everybody, I'm Andrew Fogel. I play Baron von Fogel with the League of Steam. I'm the art and media director for the group, so I deal a lot with videos and graphics and all sorts of fun stuff like that. I also work on the props and costumes, but my main focus is working on our web series, The Adventures of the League of Steam, which you can see on our website and on YouTube.
Or buy in the back of the room
Yes.
from our wonderful Kitty Blackmore. Catherine Blackmore. She hates me calling her Kitty, so I do it all. As I already said, I'm Shayna. I play Ella Copperbottom. I've been a slave to the PMX fashion. I come from a Gothic lit background. When I discovered steampunk, I went, oh my god, I don't have to paint my breasts. What the hell? And it was a beautiful relationship made in heaven where I now get to put them on display as a little cute.
Yeah.
I'm Glenn Front. I play Coyote within the group. I'm the audio engineer and pickup man in the group. So if there's a thing that needs to happen, just pick it up. So do some of the
What that?
that's the audio engineer part of it.
Yeah, but you gotta mention where
Listen to your audio engineering work. You can listen to it. I'll get there. You can listen to it at Steam Geeks. Steam Geeks podcast. Type it in Google, or you can Steam Geeks in iTunes. You should leave comments and just say, yeah, I saw that guy at the convention. Yeah. And we talk about general steampunk topics between drinking.
You be drunken.
We come from the steam drunk. Have you guys heard of that?
No, not yet today. Not until after the events are over.
Podcast has a lot of steampunk related topics, so come listen in. It's got interesting things. Yeah. So why are we here? So we're here to explain what steampunk is. This is a 101.
Yeah, who in the audience feels like they know what steampunk is? Who? Did not. Who in the audience is totally green and would love to have like a steampunk 101 primer? That's why you're here. Awesome. Okay, well, hopefully our goal is to make this an engaging enough panel that whether you're a complete novice or an airship captain, you're going to enjoy yourself.
So first off, what is steampunk?
And
Andrew has a description.
All right, I'll start. Okay. So one of the interesting things about steampunk as a subgenre of science fiction and as its own community is that everybody has a little bit of a different interpretation of what it means, and that's totally okay. That's actually one of the things that I find makes it really interesting is that there, you can kind of create your own rule set for what it is. But my basic definition that I like to go off of is Victorian era science fiction, which to me can be interpreted in a number of different ways, whether that's science fiction that was written in the Victorian era, or modern science fiction that takes place in the Victorian era, or futuristic science fiction that draws its influence from the Victorian era. And I'm going to keep saying Victorian era because a lot of people will just say Victorian science fiction, which, as my sister, who is actually an architectural historian, will every time correct me. When you say Victorian, that strictly limits it to the areas of the world that were under the reign of Queen Victoria, which were many. But if you say Victorian era, then that sort of opens it up to as you can probably tell from our attire, we're very much into like the American West, so that like Victorian era is a little bit more of an all-inclusive term.
That's kind of how we started as well. Well, Victorian era to us just made it a little broader, which made it a little more fun to explore all the different options. And quite honestly, we'll readily admit that I was wanting to do British accents when we started.
He's talking about golf now. I was willing to.
And case in point. So, so basically, we just said, well, why don't we? Nobody was doing it at the time. This was years ago now, and there weren't. Steampunk was just up and coming. Not a whole lot out there. I mean, at this time, you look steampunk, you already got anything.
It's like Kato.
You just got keto, pretty much. And then a lot of people are doing, high aristocratic British fashion for the steampunk. So we just thought it would be fun and different and gritty to just do American West, and it just seemed to fit a lot of our styles and a lot of our personalities. So that's what we went with. And as things slowly developed, now you've got all over the world people interpreting it in different cultures, in different countries. Sort of they're sort of owning their own regions, I guess, which is kind of cool. So.
For those of you who made it to my Steampunk Japan panel earlier today, we had talked about how the Meiji Restoration is an incredibly fertile ground for Japanese steampunk, and then also Drew carried from that panel another definition of steampunk, or another interpretation of steampunk, is a post-apocalyptic society so far in the future after a societal crash that they've rebuilt themselves to the point of almost about Victorian or steam-powered technology. Some anime case in points would be Nashta, the Valley of the Wind, whereby it does not draw from hardcore Victorian aspects. The technology used is very much on par with the sort of, with a lot of the air flight and kind of, I just lost my train of thought halfway through, but the post-apocalyptic future that is so far in advance that it is catch up to Victorian time is something you're going to see a lot more in the anime that has been retroactively claimed as steampunk, which is something we'll go into. Steampunk, the term was only really developed in 1984.
Mid-80s.
Mid-80s, and since then, one of the steampunk's favorite activities is to retroactively claim media as steampunk. And that's something you'll see a lot with, if you look up any list of steampunk anime, you'll be like, I don't know, Galaxy Express 999 was made in the 70s, and steampunk didn't exist until the 80s, so does it count? It inspires. I have that opinion about that.
There's of course a lot of different interpretations, and that's why we personally keep it very simple in general. That's why we say Victorian era science fiction, because that's pretty much, you've got a time period to have a basis, and then you've got the science fiction, which is then where your imagination and fantasy comes in, and you can take it anywhere you want from there. That's why you've got some people doing time travel, people doing airship pirates, people doing ray guns. If you're familiar with the game Space 1889, I think it was, it's just made a comeback. It's a tabletop RPG, but that was developed in the 80s, I believe. But that was very much the British Empire in the 1880s colonized the moon and Venus, and gentlemen adventurers were now, instead of hunting elephants, were going to other planets to hunt aliens and stuff. So.
What people? They just want
dominate everything.
They just want to share their moon pies.
There you go. So that's just kind of one of the dramatic differences I think you can go with steampunk, is that space exploration down to, again, our group keeps things much more simple. I like to reference Doc Brown in Back to the Future 3, where it's this brilliant man, more of our day and time. He's transported, 100 years ago, and he only has the tools that are around him to build these amazing things. And that's kind of what we like to do. And, a lot of our stuff is very rough and even from what's around us. So the cool thing I think about a lot of what we do is a lot of our gear actually functions and works. This is, there you go, you got that. This is our portable shock prod powered by baby electric eels. This is basically our teaser unit for on-field. We are monster hunters. We didn't explain that.
Oh, yeah.
So
Maybe we should.
maybe we left that part out.
We have a Liga STEAM. STEAM stands for Supernatural Entrancing Ectoplasmic Apparition Management. otherwise known as Victorian era vampire hunters, ghostbusters, werewolves,
Zombie hunters.
leprechaun hunters, no, not leprechaun, sorry, gnome hunters, or gnome victim turned angry woman.
And a lot of our web series adventures reflects, you know, a lot of those hunts and things like that. So, but we also do live shows as well, which was an important aspect of trying to make our stuff as practical as possible. The other really cool thing about the steampunk community, I think, is that maker culture. There is a lot of visual. I'm going to be all over this too. The funny thing is, steampunk started as a literature movement, and then it's only recently, in the past several years, and really a lot of that has to do with the internet, is that it became very, very much a visual representation. And now music and literature start to catch back up. Music's starting to find its fitting still, I think. That's a whole other.
Then we could do a whole
Music
panel
is a whole
on the
other panel.
concept of steampunk music, because fundamentally, parlor music was what people in the Victorian era, America and England
Yeah.
listened to. And no offense, but not a lot of us really like to go to concerts and listen to classical parlor music. It's kind of like boring.
So yeah, so a lot of different bands have interpreted what they're doing, but none of a lot of music doesn't sound the same. But the one thing that is the same with all of these musicians is the aesthetic, and that is again a mixture of Victorian and science fiction. Lots of Browns. You hear people say, and they're saying this.
We all hate it.
But everyone says that steampunk is when goths find brown, or it's the new goth brown, or something like that. Because brown is a dominant color.
But it is an easy transition. If you want to do a steampunk outfit and you've never done one before and you're just intimidated, like legitimately look at some of your goth clothing, because let's be honest, I know you all have some. Look at your goth clothing and try to add a belt or two and put on some goggles. I know it's the first costume, it's gonna be your bad one. Everybody's first costume is not great. And then go to an event and then you can see all.
Well, I would say though.